به نام خدا. سلام بیننده های عزیز، امید که جور و صحتمند باشین. من زهرا ناصری هستم. امروز با یک گزارش در مورد کمپاین انتخاباتی خانم گابریل ویلیامز صحبت خواهم کرد. امید که تا آخر این گزارش با من باشید. کمپاین انتخاباتی خانم گابریل ویلیامز، نماینده مردم شهر دندنانگ در پارلمان ویکتوریا، به تاریخ 17 ماه سپتامبر سال 2022 برای انتخابات ایالتی طی محفلی در شهر دندنانگ آغاز گردید. در این محفل تعدادی از نمایندگان دولت محلی، ایالتی، نمایندگان و بزرگان مردم حضور داشتند. مهمان ویژه این کمپاین خانم جاسینتا آلن، معاون وزیر ایالت ویکتوریا بودند. در ابتدا خانم ویلیامز با تشکری از حمایت مردم سخنرانی‌هایشان را آغاز کرد و در طول صحبت‌هایشان به کارکردها و دستاوردهای دولت آقای دانیل اندروز پرداخت و از مردم خواست که باری دیگر با او رای بدهند. خانم گابریل ویلیامز گفت:
We've had the Andrews Labor government in power now for 8 years, and I think we have done extraordinary things in that time. We have been a reformist government. We have embarked upon some of the most difficult social reform of our generation. We've never shied away from those difficult challenges, and I think the benefits of that are being felt across our community, whether it's in family violence reform, whether it's in mental health reform, whether it's in the introduction of game-changing initiatives like free kinder or free TAFE, things that don't just provide educational opportunity but also provide economic empowerment for women in our community. These are initiatives that will change not only today, the here and now, but will change our community and society for generations to come for the better, and we should all be incredibly proud of that. We also have the biggest infrastructure agenda in the history of this state. Building projects, again, not just for the sugar hit of an electoral win, but for the long term. Doing things that will benefit our children and our grandchildren, because that's what good government should do. We hear all the time that governments work too closely to electoral cycles, and that can inhibit our creativity, it can inhibit our ability to provide properly for generations to come. Well, that is not the story of the Andrews Labor government. We have been looking forward since day one. We have looked at how we build for the future, how we build for next generations, and how we leave the place better than we found it, and we've certainly done that.
مهمان ویژه این برنامه خانم جاسینتا آلن، معاون آقای دانیل اندروز، صحبت کرد و از مردم خواست که باری دیگر به حزب کارگر استرالیا در انتخابات ایالتی رای دهند و آنها را حمایت کنند. وی همچنان افزود:
It's a great day for a campaign launch. We're in here with the warmth of the Labor team, having pizza, celebrating what it means to be Labor, but also understanding that there is still a lot of hard work ahead. And that's something I wanted to touch on about in terms of what it means to be part of the Labor movement, what it means for people like Gabriel and I to stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us, to continue to advance a more equal society, a society where kids can get the chance to go to kinder through initiatives like Free Kinder, can have the chance to go to a great public school that's well resourced, not just with great buildings, but having the teachers and staff and the tutors in those schools to help kids of all different sorts of abilities. And that's why I'm really proud of the initiative that was announced in the budget to rebuild every single special development school in the state. That's an achievement that you only see from a Labor government. You're seeing the same in the health sector as well, with the work that's been doing, again, not just in building new hospitals, providing hospital upgrades, expanding buildings, making sure though that we're supporting the staff that are in those hospitals. Initiatives, particularly through the pandemic, that have supported our hard-working healthcare workers who worked so hard around the clock. And it's not just the healthcare workers, it's the cleaners, it's the other staff, the allied health staff, the other staff in those hospitals and those healthcare settings that got us through the pandemic, that we're grateful for, and we need to continue to support them, which is why the recent announcement of providing HECS-free nurses, people enrolling for nursing in the coming years to be able to have their HECS paid for by the state government is another really critical initiative. But again, it only comes because you've been able to progressively invest and support in our healthcare system. And I deliberately say this because it wasn't always like this. Many of us with You don't even need a long memory, really. It can be also in the more near term as well. We've seen what the alternative looks like when you have a Liberal government that not just doesn't have these values, but actually works actively against providing that opportunity of equality, that opportunity of access. You have to look no further than the fact that they closed TAFE campuses when they were in government most recently. That in my lived experience coming from country Victoria, we had country train lines closed. You all know, I'm sure, in this part of the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne can point to a school site where a former Liberal government closed a school site. We all also might remember that the former Liberal government took away the education maintenance allowance, an initiative that is designed to support the most needy families, the families who struggle to support kids with having uniforms and books. That was taken away by a Liberal government. And it's important to remember this over the coming couple of months, because one of the things our opponents will say to people like Gabriel and I, and I'm sure you'll cop a bit of this as you might be doing some phone calling or door knocking or standing on election booths as part of pre-poll or election day, they'll say, Labor's been in government for 19 of the past 23 years, it's time for a change. Well, I say no. Thank goodness we've had Labor in government for 19 of the past 23 years, because look what happens when you have a Liberal government. They take away opportunity from people who need it the most, and it takes Labor to not just rebuild and reinvest, but look at how we can advance things and make things better. And so that's what motivates us to keep going, and it's also why we're so proud to be part of a Labor movement and a Labor history that is building on the work that has been done previously, but pushing it forward. And that is so critically important. And one of the best examples I can give of that, and Gab touched on this, is the Best Start, Best Life initiative, where it's about providing free kinder, which means every young child can get the opportunity to go and have that year of kinder. Expanding kinder to be a full year of pre-prep, and we all know how important it is for young children to get that education opportunity early. Also too, it's so important for women to help them get back into the workforce and help ease their burden in terms of managing those working and family responsibilities. And that for me is the shining light of what Labor governments are about. It's about doing things that support families, support the economy, and make us a stronger community. And that's why I know we're all going to get bound out of bed every day for the next 70 days, and not just get behind Gab here in Dandenong, but get behind the entire Labor team, because it genuinely takes a village. We are a movement of people. We're not one-off individuals. We work together as a team, and it's the team that I can see here in the room today that is so important for the campaign here in Dandenong. And it's why I really appreciate you coming along on this slightly cold and wet September day, but we have energy, we have spirit, and we have determination to make sure that we see the return of an Andrews Labor government, return of Gabriel Williams as the member for Dandenong, and it gives us the opportunity to continue that investment in those areas that only a Labor government will invest in. And here in Dandenong, you most certainly have an outstanding example of all of those things that make up a great Labor team in Gabriel, who brings to work every single day, every single minute of every single day, a values-driven approach, a determination to keep pushing forward, a policy agenda, a project agenda that's about making a difference, not just for her community here in Dandenong, but indeed for right around the state. And it's been great, particularly in the last 4 years, to sit in Cabinet with Gabrielle as she pushes us and challenges us and encourages us to make sure that we are being the best we can be in all those important portfolio areas, not just the ones that she has led and driven change in Aboriginal affairs, in family violence, in women, and now in mental health, but indeed in portfolio areas across government that, as I said, not just important for her community, but important for people right across the state. And so that's why it's so important to continue to support people like Gab here in Dandenong, continue to see the work and pushing out, not just the message, but talking to people about what it means to support an Andrews Labor government. Because, as I said, there will be people who want to challenge us, and that's okay. But that's why we'll get out there and have those conversations over the next 70 days. My goodness, it's come around so quick. We've got 58 days until the early voting starts, until the pre-poll starts. And we are going to need, over every single one of those days, your support, and we thank you for that. Thank you, particularly in advance. We will be asking a lot of our members and supporters over that over these next 10 weeks as we work towards that that finishing line at the end of November. But I'll finish where I started. It's because we're a team. It's because we believe in the values that the Labor Party is about equality, about opportunity, about supporting workers. You might remember, you know, one of the other examples of what the former Liberal government looked like is whilst they were, you know, cutting funding to hospitals and closing hospitals, they also thought it was, you know, a good thing to do to have a fight with nurses, to have a fight with paramedics, to not support them. And these are the people that we've got to remember that we've got to keep fighting for. The working people who work in our schools, work in our hospitals, work on our train network. That's why we keep on fighting for our broader community. And it's, I know, what motivates all of you every single day to get in and support the Labor team. So we do have a big task ahead of us. We can take no seat for granted, no vote for granted. And I was talking to some friends earlier here. My own experience in Bendigo East in 1999 was I won a seat that we were not expected to win when we brought down Jeff Kennett in that 1999 state election. Yes, that was 23 years ago. But it reminds me of why every vote matters. Every phone call you make on behalf of Gabriel, every door you might be knocking on, every conversation you have with your neighbour over the back fence or someone at the supermarket. It's so critically important to continue to support the Labor movement, but particularly to take nothing for granted, because being in government is a precious, precious thing, and we don't waste a day of our time in government. Gabrielle Williams certainly does not waste a day in her time in government, and we want to be given the privilege and the opportunity to continue that work. We need all of your support. So thank you for coming along here today to support Gabrielle. She's a fantastic Member of Parliament, an incredibly strong and important and powerful voice at the Cabinet table, as I said, that is about pushing across a whole range of portfolio areas to make sure we are our very, very best every single day. We can only keep doing this work with your support, so thank you. Thank you in anticipation of the work you'll do over the next coming weeks and a couple of months. And once again, thank you for the support you're going to give here locally to Gabrielle. It means the world to all of us, and we look forward to continuing to fight on for the next 70 days. Thank you.